The Lockdown Defense Hit Squad is back this week as we continue our series called Tags, Title, and Resignations. This week we're doing the AFC. As I take you through a ride through the AFC North and see who's going to get the bag, who's going to get tagged, and who's going to end up being a free agent in 2025. Let's go. All right, so it's the AFC North's turn to discuss who's going to get tagged, who's going to get the bag, and who's going to end up resigning from their current teams and end up in the 2025 free agency pool. So the AFC North is an interesting division. We've got two playoff teams out of the division, and one just missed it. And the Browns got a lot of work to do. I'm just going to preface this segment by saying that. But let's discuss exactly who's going to get the tag, who's going to get the bag, who's going to get their free agency hopes dash with their current team and end up in the pool of free agency, end up with another squad in 2025. So as we ceremoniously do, let's start off talking about the salary cap. Now the salary cap, as this series is going on, has gone up potentially. They're going to potentially raise the salary cap with anywhere between 15 and maybe 20, $25 million than the previously projected. So that's going to be interesting. So the numbers are updated. And they're here on the screen. So starting off with the divisional champs, the Baltimore Ravens, they are now at $9.7 million in free cap space at this very moment. Not a lot to work with there, so I'm thinking they're going to have to make some changes, and I got a couple of predictions for that to up their salary cap availability for free agency period because they got some guys I think they want to keep. Pittsburgh Steelers in a good spot. They have $56.9 million in free money to throw around in free agency this going period. That happens when you don't have a franchise quarterback in Japan, so hey, they got a little bit of money to spend. We'll see how they spend it. The Cincinnati Bengals are in a decent spot as well. They're at $58.5 million with the likes of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Trey Henderson need to be repaid. So, it'd be interesting to see how they use that money. And then the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns are right now in the hole at $32.4 million. They're in the hole with $32.4 million before we even get started. So that's definitely something that we got to pay attention to, how they're going to clear that cap in order to be solvent by the time the league year starts in March. So yeah, those are your cap numbers there. So we're going to talk about exactly how they're going to spend it, what my predictions are, and how they're going to spend this money in 2025. So starting off with who I think is going to be talking about who's going to be potentially free agents in this coming period. So the 2025 listing right now has for the Baltimore Ravens is Ronnie Stanley, a 30-year-old left tackle, stalwart Pro Bowler for the Baltimore Ravens. He's going to be free at the moment. Patrick McCarry, who was their left guard, I believe, he's going to be a free agent. Tre'Davious White, who they got in, I think, a trade over the season of 2025 from the Rams, he's a free agent. And stalwart fullback Patrick Ricard, who's been a staple for the Ravens for a while, is going to be a free agent as well. So they got four notable names there that's going to be free agents this coming period. Who they're going to resign in that particular window. Then the Pittsburgh Steelers, they got two running backs, Jalen Warren and Najee Harris are both up on free agency deals. Russell Wilson is up for a free agency deal. So is Mike Williams. Interesting thing about Najee Harris is that he was a first-round draft pick, and they declined his fifth-year option. So that tells me that they're on a collision to part ways, but that's just me. I can see them re-signing Jalen Warren and letting Najee go if I had to be a betting man, but we'll see how things go. So Cincinnati, technically right now, T. Higgins, Mike Gesicki, Mike Hilton, and B.J. Hill all are free agents. Rumors coming out that they're going to franchise tag T. Higgins early. Should be an interesting note that's going to come down the line. Well, again, I have my opinions on that, but yet again, he's a free agent at this very moment. So until they franchise tag him officially in the next week or so, when the window opens, he's going to be a free agent technically. And for the Cleveland Browns as well, they got Jedrick Wills, who their left tackle, first round draft pick from 5 years ago. So he's up for a new contract. Nick Chubb, coming off the knee injury, came back in later on in the season, and he was pretty productive. He's going to be free agent at 29. Elijah Moore, who they traded from the Jets 2 years ago, they got him up for a new deal. He's a slot receiver. And Jameis Winston, their backup quarterback, he's also a free agent. So it'll be interesting to see with them being deeply in cap hell, who they're going to actually resign in this wave. But as of right now, those are your free agents. So we'll see exactly how that thing shakes out. But yeah, those are some notable names. Some guys I think might want to hold on to. So we'll see how things roll. So moving forward to who I think is going to get the tag. So For the Ravens, I really think that they would go to the extreme of franchise tagging, assuming they can clear the money. They got to clear the money first because they only have $9.7 million in cap space right now. So there's not going to be enough to franchise tag Ronnie Stanley. However, I think they would clear it enough to franchise tag Ronnie Stanley just to keep him there long enough for them to work out a long-term deal. I think that's what they're going to try to do. I think if they have to do it, they don't want to let him walk out the door. They don't want to let their Pro Bowl left tackle, the staple, who's been with Lamar Jackson since his drafting and his exception. I don't think they want to let him walk out the door. So I think Ronnie Stanley is going to be one of those guys that gets the franchise tag from the Baltimore Ravens if they have to do it. If they can't work out a long-term deal before the franchise tag window is up, I think they will definitely franchise tag him in lieu of a long-term deal. But if they have to, they will. But because they definitely want to keep Ronnie Stanley, in my opinion. The Steelers, there's no person on their free agency listing that I think that is young enough and worthy enough for the franchise tag in their space. I don't think they would go against streamers, say hypothetically re-signing or franchise tagging the older Russell Wilson. Either they can re-sign him to a short-term deal, or they can't, or they'll just go back and find another quarterback in some other space. But I don't think they will whip out the franchise tag on a guy that's over 35, in my opinion. And no other noteworthy names of that genre is going to garner the attention or the noteworthiness of having a franchise tag. So I don't think they franchise tag anybody in my book for the 2025 season. And the Bengals, as I alluded to earlier, I think they're going to franchise tag T. Higgins just to keep him in the building. Yet again, I'm not an advocate of this. I think that they're wasting T. Higgins' time. They're very, very frugal, and they're very, very leery of paying big time money to big time players, in all honesty. And they still got to pay Jamar Chase. They try to kick that can down the road a year because they didn't want to pay him last offseason when he wanted to be paid. So they still have the pony up that though. So I think that the idea of them paying Joe Burrow already, they paying Trey Hendrickson for one more year. They got to pay Jamar Chase. They got two tackles that they got that's going to garner big money. I don't really see them honestly and truly keeping T. Higgins. I don't think it's going to be in the cards. So why waste his time with another franchise tag just to make Joe Burrow happy? I just think that if I'm T. Higgins, I really feel like you're wasting my time because you don't have any idea that you want to pay me. You just want to hold on to me long enough, waste my affordable years in the NFL because they're short, and keep me for one more year, and they're going to hurt my ability to get my one big time payday. So I think that's wrong. You franchise tag a guy one time, maybe work out a long-term deal. Okay, maybe. But twice, I think that's a little egregious. I think you need to get rid of that option, in all honesty. If you get franchise tag once, you shouldn't be able to get franchise tag again, if nothing else. I think you should do away with it altogether. But if you have to do it one time, you have to do it one time. But two times is egregious. So they're going to do it likely, but I don't think they should. That goes for any player in the league. And the Browns, they don't have the money. Quite frankly, they just need to, like the Saints, they just need to get to the point where they need to get cap solvent. So I don't think they're going to franchise tag anybody at all. I don't think they have the money nor the wherewithal to do it. Just they don't have enough money to pay people. Now they got the roster just to franchise tag one player. It's not worth the squeeze. So I don't think they do it. I don't think they happen. So that's my take on those four teams. Now, who we get to resigning? Now, I do believe that the Ravens will resign Patrick Ricard. I don't think he's going to garner a whopping payday. I think they will find the money to pay him and Ronnie Stanley. I think those are going to be too big resigners that they want guys that they want to keep. They don't want to walk out the door. So I do think they resign Patrick Ricard and Ronnie Stanley to long-term deals. I think they'll franchise tag Ronnie Stanley if they have to. But those two guys definitely will stay Ravens, in my opinion. Now, the Steelers, I do think somehow, some way, just because of the stigma around Russell Wilson, I think that he's going to be safe with playing for Pittsburgh as the quarterback. Now, what happens to him at the end of the seasons in the last 2 or 3 years that he's been with different teams? It's puzzling to me. But I do believe that the Steelers will be typical Steelers, in my opinion. Will re-sign Russell Wilson to something reasonable, or maybe a Baker Mayfield like deal to keep him around 2 or 3 more years for them to be solidified at quarterback, but they don't spend big money. I do also think they bring Justin Fields back as a backup, use him as a weapon. His running ability and his throwing ability, his read option ability. I do think they keep him as a backup to Russell Wilson if they need him. I do think they bring both quarterbacks back, one on a bigger deal and one on a slighter deal. Honestly, I'm sure there's not going to be a big market for either quarterback. And for my mind and my money. So I do believe that they bring them both back and pay them, Steeler-like money. If you know what that means, if you've been paying attention to the Steelers over the last 30 years. They're going to pay them Steeler-like money. It's not going to be top of the market, but it's not going to be chump change either. So I do think they get paid and be a part of a bigger culture. I also think that because I think Dante Jackson is going to walk, their starting corner who's 29 years old, them having C.J. Henderson, a younger version of Dante Jackson with a little more physicality, I think they bring him back on a slight deal. I don't think they pay him top of the market, obviously, as a corner because he's bounced around. former first-round pick. But I do believe that he's going to be their starting corner opposite Joey Porter Jr., in my opinion. I think he's going to be the other guy that's going to be on the other side because I do like his skill set. So I think they will re-sign him to something, market-friendly as well. Again, more Steeler money. And I do think they bring back Nate Herberg. He's been a really good rotational pass rushing piece for them outside of Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt. Obviously, he's been a third guy that's been productive when healthy. So I do think because they drafted him and kind of found him and they kind of developed him, I think he's going to like to stay in Pittsburgh, and I think they'll bring him back on a slight, money deal. Now for the Bengals, I do believe they bring back Khalil Herbert to back up Chase Brown. I do think because they traded for him, so I do think they will bring him back because they paid money for him. So I think they want to invest in him, and I think he won't ask for the world. I think they bring back Joseph Osai as well. Their rotational pass rusher, especially with Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson kind of being in the wind, and their futures kind of being in peril because they're both on their last year of their deals. Bringing back Osai on a smaller deal and a friendly deal will behoove them because they're not sure what's going to hold the future of Hubbard or Hendrickson at this point. So I do believe that they bring him back as a rotational piece and nothing else. A person to stalwart in the middle, BJ Hill, a D tackle. I think they bring him back on a smaller deal, as well as Mike Hilton for his leadership skills in the secondary. I think they bring him back as well on a slight deal because I think these guys all will be willing to take less money because, again, the big money's got to go to the big boys. So I think they will be back and will be back with smaller deals, much to the delight of Cincinnati because they don't like to pay people. And finally, the Browns, again, cap hell. They're not bringing anybody back on a re-sign. They're just trying to get cap solvent. So they're not going to do a whole lot of moves in re-signing. And moving on to who's going to be gone. I got a few trades and a few resignations here that I think are likely going to happen. I think that based upon his cap number and his production and his age, especially with the Isaiah likely being up for re-sign next season, I think they trade Mark Andrews. I think the Ravens trade Mark Andrews. He's coming off his worst season. He's getting older. His cap number is high, and they can really save a lot of coin by trading him pre-June 1. I think that it's still a market for him. Somebody going to need a really good tight end. I think that he can be traded for some decent draft capital. So I would think that they were going to trade Mark Andrews. That's just my prediction. I think he's going to be on a different team next year. That's just my cap casualty prediction on that. And that's also going to free up money to allow them to re-sign Ronnie Stanley. Because I think they will value Ronnie Stanley more than they value Mark Andrews. And some bad, he got to go. Free up money somewhere. So I think that's going to be a cap casualty for the Ravens. And the Steelers, I think they let Mike Williams go. I think they let Dan Moore Jr. go and James Daniels. Dan Moore and James Daniels are going to be usurped by younger talent. They've drafted their replacements in previous drafts, and they've drafted pretty well in those positions. So the likes of Troy Fontenot and then a few other guys are going to take up the reins at left tackle and at left guard. So I think that left side is going to be different in 2025. So I do think they let those older guys go for better, younger talent. So I think they're going to walk. As well as Dante Jackson. Dante Jackson is 29 years old. He's a really good, athletic, fast corner. But again, at 29 years old, when you have a guy like C.J. Henderson who's 26, I think that you would go with a cheaper option. So I think they let Dante Jackson go. As well as Van Jefferson. He didn't really contribute in the receiving corps, so I think he walks. For the Bengals, I think Trent Brown goes. They got Arminius Mims there. They drafted last year. I think he's going to play right tackle for them going forward. He did play a lot this season. So when Trent Brown went down with injury, so why pay an older guy when you got a younger guy in house that you're not paying big time money to? So that's a no-brainer for me. Mike Gesicki, I think he walks. I think he's going to be. They're going to replace him with a younger tight end, so either in free agency or the draft. I think they're going to draft one maybe to get a Sam Darnold, not Sam Darnold, but Joe Burrow, a different weapon. So I think that's going to be had in Cincinnati for Mike Gesicki to be gone. And then Sam Hubbard, I think they trade Sam Hubbard. Sam Hubbard's numbers is really friendly to trade. He's going to open up a lot more cap space, which would allow them to pay the guys that they need to pay. So I think they resign Osai, let him be the starter, and let Sam Hubbard walk or trade him to a different place and get some draft capital for him. May not be a high pick, but he can be serviceable somewhere else. So I do think they do that. And finally, I think what the Browns do, I think that by Myles Garrett requesting a trade would allow them to try to get a haul back for him, number one. They could trade him and free up some cap money, depending on how they rejigger the contract, because he's not really cap friendly to cut or trade pre-June 1. But if you can work it out where though he can be gone and get a diary for him and get a ransom for him, I would do that. They need to do that. Greg Newsome is up for a new deal soon. He's very friendly to trade. He's a really good corner. I think people will pay a good, I guess you can say, good, handsome ransom for him as well. Being a young, shutdown slot / outside corner. I think he's going to be one that can be traded. Jack Conklin, tackle, I think he's going to be gone based upon cap casualties. Martin Emerson as well, another slot corner that can be traded. That's very friendly to trade at this moment. He has very good potential to be traded because he can free up a lot of cap money. Alex Wright and Jordan Hicks as well. Alex Wright is a rotational edge guy. They're going to be let go due to cap casualties as well as Jordan Hicks. So I think they trade or let go all these guys to free up cap space, and they do all of that and they do it the right way. They'll be at the cusp of being cap solvent just by letting those guys go. So I think that's what they end up doing, and I think that's what they ultimately will be the genesis of what is going to happen going forward. And they're going to have at least 12 draft picks, maybe more if they get back people from these Newsome, Emerson, and Garrett trades. So they could go into the draft with 15, 16 picks maybe, and future picks would allow them to rebuild and get younger because they got a lot of cap problems with that Deshaun Watson contract, and he most likely will not play in 2025. So Browns got some digging out of the hole to do, just to say the least. So we're going to pray for Browns fans in its entirety. But that's the wraps, that's the haps, and that's what's going to happen with the AFC North in the 2025 season. Let me know in the comments how you feel about it. As always, you can reach me on any socials. Here's it is on the screen here. And as always, man, comment, subscribe, like the video, and tell us how you feel about the AFC North predictions. And we'll get to it, and we'll get right with it tomorrow with another video. But in the meantime, in between time, as always, you got to step up to lock it down.